Apple has to rush out their M4 chip because they're scared. Microsoft's scared of supporting good art and shuts down good studios. And AMD is scared of being the only brand with sensible naming schemes, so they made them really ridiculous. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Wednesday, May 8th, 2024. We're going to start off today talking about the RTX 5090 because there's been reports that it's going to be launched this year and nothing else, to which other well-known leakers have come out and said, no, the 5080 is launching first. And that's all we have. So we don't know what's going on. There were reports that the 5090 was going to be coming out during Computex, and that is definitely not going to be happening. I think it's plenty clear at this point we don't know what's going on with NVIDIA's next-gen gaming GPUs, but we do know what's going on with Apple's next-gen chips that they're inputting into their iPads, because that's what happened yesterday. They had their iPad event for their thinnest Apple device ever in the iPad Pro, which is thinner than an Apple Pencil, and they showed off the M4 chip, which is roughly the M3 chip, except big difference, better at AI. It's got the AI improvements. It can artificial all that intelligence. And this is a big deal because their 16-core neural engine is faster and more efficient. And they came out and talked about how it's the most powerful neural engine ever. It has an astounding 38 trillion operations per second, a breathtaking 60 times faster than the first neural engine in the A11 Bionic. It's the fastest one on the market right now. It's more powerful than any neural processing unit in any AI PC today, which they're bringing it to an iPad, so limited excitement there. But then also, you have to consider the fact that Qualcomm has already said that their Snapdragon X Elite chip is going to be well above 40 tops. You have to consider the fact that Intel has already announced their Lunar Lake chips, which are going to be above 45 tops. And you also have to consider the fact that the next-gen Ryzen chips, which we're going to talk about later in today's episode of Hot News, also are faster than this 38 tops that Apple is showing off. And this just kind of indicates why the M4 feels really rushed. We just got the M3 roughly 6 months ago, and now all of a sudden we have the M4 when the normal cadence is every year, not every half of a year. And part of that is because they need to get it out right now for marketing. Otherwise, their AI performance is going to be crap compared to the competition. But right now, before the competition has actually released the things that they've discussed, Apple is the fastest. They win. They get to use that in their marketing, at least for a little bit, and then get it seeded into everybody's heads. So it will soak there and germinate into the roots of misinformation where you think Apple is really, really freaking good at AI when they're actually kind of behind all of the competition. It seems like Apple didn't take this seriously for a long while. They've had neural processing units in things since the A11 chip. They have been using it, but they haven't done this hardcore shareholder maximizing profit type of drive that is appearing to happen with every other company. So we're now getting that from Apple. That appears to be why they're launching the M4 chip. It's basically the M3 with extra AI enhancements. They also showed off an Apple Pencil Pro, which has more like gyroscopic capabilities where it can do a barrel roll, has better pressure sensitivity. Also, the base level iPad now no longer comes with Lightning. It comes with USB-C, no longer has a home button, so you got to do all of the swipey uppy. And the iPad Pro, with it being thin, is also an OLED screen. So that's the big deal from Apple's event yesterday. A lot of people were expecting that Apple might finally launch a calculator app that's dedicated to the iPad, and that did not happen because Apple reasons they're just not ready. In the year of 2024, you cannot have an Apple calculator app that is made by them, that is beautiful and according to all of their specifications. It's just not possible. And it's not possible for me to forget about Reece. I don't think I've done it. I don't think I've forgotten to segue to him for deals. So here you go.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals out on the internet. And surprise, surprise, I have some deals for you today. Starting off with this Team T4's Vulcan Z DDR4 RAM kit, featuring 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz at CL16 for only $34.99, making it $15 off for it. Solid price for a solid set of RAM. But then next up we have this Corsair RM750X Shift, which is a 750 watt 80 plus gold fully modular side interfacing power supply for only $89.99, making it $40 off. And then lastly we have this Acer 27-inch 1440p 170Hz gaming monitor back for only $154.99 with the new promo code, making it $95 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm gonna hand you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Cheers. Deals.
All right, Reece, let's get into the deal about Microsoft closing down 4 different studios yesterday. The 4 studios are Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Games. And the reason that this is actually causing a firestorm across social media, discussing how this is kind of a disgusting move by Microsoft, is because of several reasons. It's not necessarily expected that every single game development studio that was acquired by Microsoft in their acquisition spree, when they got ZeniMax and they got freaking Activision, when they went and purchased all of this stuff, that everybody was going to survive. But those 2 first ones that I mentioned, Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks, are notable for a couple of reasons. Number 1, Arcane Austin is the company behind Redfall, and you might be thinking, wow, Redfall sucked. It kind of makes sense that they got closed. However, that's despite the fact that Microsoft publicly came out and said, we are not going to shut down this studio for what happened with Redfall. That was kind of a misstep by us at Microsoft and is not supposed to have the weight borne on the studio. So Microsoft going back on previous statements. But then Tango Gameworks made the Evil Within games, and most notably recently, Hi-Fi Rush, which is the most successful game that Microsoft has released in 2024. They didn't give it a marketing budget. They didn't really promote it very much. They didn't really put a whole lot of resources behind it, but Hi-Fi Rush has been a smashing success for them in terms of popularity by a ton of people, to which Microsoft came out and said, yeah, we love you, Tango Gameworks. We're going to put more resources into you. They said this publicly a couple of months ago, and now they're shutting down the studio. So a lot of people are just upset with Microsoft, especially since they're saying that they're doing this so that they can put their resources into higher priorities for the company and invest more deeply in our portfolio of games and new IP, and create capacity to increase investment in other parts of our portfolio and focus on our priority games. It's just a very strange situation. Another Arcane studio head came out and just essentially said that this is a bad move by Microsoft to shut down Arcane Austin. Despite the bad launch of Redfall, it's clear that that was a decision made by Microsoft to move forward with that game and kind of forced Arcane Austin into it. But also to shut down the studio that made your best game this year is just also a strange move, and people are not happy with it. So what did Microsoft do to alleviate tensions? What did they do to placate the masses? They announced their Fire Vapor Special Edition Xbox controller with the tagline, "Feel the burn today" with the Fire Vapor Special Edition controller. And then once they saw that that didn't actually help anything, they changed the headlines to not be called Feel the Burn, because they laid off a lot of people and made it so that a lot of studios that they are feeling the burn. But I do have to admit, that's a hot controller. It's a nice looking controller. I know Kyler wants a piece of it.
Give me.
And TikTok what? Did you just bark?
Yes.
Weird. And TikTok wants a piece of the US government, mainly the part that will repeal the action that's going to shut them down, because TikTok has announced that they've officially sued the US government over the shutdown that will have to take place by January 19th of 2025. TikTok saying that this is unconstitutional, this is a repression of speech, and they're going to be fighting this in the courts. We'll keep you updated as this progresses. This was kind of an obvious move that ByteDance said that they were going to do, and we'll just see how it plays out in the courts. And the way we're going to see what happens with Ryzen 9000 is seeing all of the leaks that Asus themselves is making happen. This is coming courtesy of both Asus's website and retailers in South Africa accidentally listing Asus laptops for the next gen Ryzen chips. So the code name is AMD Strix Point, and we're going to get into the official public naming scheme in a second, but it does appear like this is going to be a massive launch for AMD. The Strix Point mobile processors, speculated originally to have been called the 8050, appear to be making the rounds into 14 different Asus laptops that are going to be announced at Computex, which include a whole host of dedicated graphics. One of the things to note is that not a single one of these has an AMD GPU, but they are all rocking Strix Point CPUs. So this is a big deal for AMD. One of the areas where they've struggled is laptops, so to see Strix Point all put in there is cool. Lenovo kind of making it seem like it might be called the 8040 or the 8050 series CPUs, but it turns out no. AMD's changing the naming scheme completely. Just like Intel's not going to be called the 15900K, it's going to be called the Core Ultra 9285K, which is a terrible name, hard to understand, removes the special part of the branding. AMD decided, hey, You know what our new CPUs have that everybody's gonna love? They've got AI. So we're gonna call our processors. This apparently is moving forward. AMD Ryzen AI9 HX 170. Intel got rid of the i9, AMD's adopting it. They're just putting artificial in front of it. They're artificial Intel 9. That's intelligence? It's close enough. This is details that is coming courtesy of what Asus has listed on their product pages for these laptops. I think this is horrible. I think this is bad branding. I think this is a bad move by AMD. I don't like any of this. I think their previous branding was just fine. Again, what I saw with Intel with changing over to Core Ultra, it's just bad. You're removing the iconic part of what you had, the i9, the i7, the i5. That was the part people reference. And so you drop the I, you replace it with Ultra. Calling it U9 is gonna be a little bit weird. It confuses and makes things difficult, and especially here with AMD, right? Like, not only am I gonna have to call it an AI9, it just feels so vulturous, where they're looking at the current landscape of what shareholders want, and they're like, you know what? Our chips have AI in them. We've got 45 tops of XDNA2 graphics, so we're the AI9 chips, which just... You've had tops. Everybody's had these neural engines. Everybody has had these processors that could actually process AI tasks. This is not a brand new invention by any of these companies, but as soon as ChatGPT commercialized it to the point where everybody was paying attention, that's when they're all shifting. And instead of saying that it's just machine learning or just saying that it's powered by compute and that it's just an algorithm, they are now literally calling everything i9. And I viscerally reject it. My initial response is, this is kind of scummy. It just feels inappropriate and like cash grabby, and like they don't want to feel left out. It doesn't feel like they're behind the 8 ball, actually about to make pivots that work. The only company that's doing that is Nvidia. Everybody else feels like they're playing catch up, and so that's what we're looking at here with AMD. They feel like they're riding the coattails of everybody else in the industry, so they have to make sure to stand out somehow. And how do you do that? Well, when you search for AI processor, it's gonna be Ryzen, which just... Goodness, AMD. Bad. Let it be known I also hate Intel's naming too. This is not just an anti-AMD show, but it is a show where I respond to the comments that you left on previous episodes, so let's do that right now. Little Nikki Scarfo over on Floatplane said, what's your take on early access games and how it is helpful or harmful? I don't know if I necessarily have a take besides just observations of what the industry is kind of going through when it comes to game releases. We're seeing things happen with Microsoft where they're shutting down game studios. We're seeing things happen where games like Redfall are able to release and they're just absolutely garbage from day one. And it feels like a game like Redfall happens as the byproduct of early access being accepted. You are paying a company to beta test their game, and especially when they're live service like Redfall is, you're essentially saying, hey, I'm gonna give you a few bucks right now and you're gonna make it better for me in the future as long as I continue to pay you microtransactions. We also saw this with Anthem about half a decade ago. It feels like the industry is moving towards, hey, we actually are going to take a really long time to make these games, and in order to continue marketing properly, we want to have this out and about in the mainstream public eye, and so we're going to start releasing games in an unfinished state, which I personally don't like. However, there is the counter argument with like a game like Hades 2, where they already successfully did early access with plenty of their previous games. The original Hades had a successful early access. When it finally went gold and actually launched on Steam, it was very popular. A lot of new people checked it out. It seems like it was good, but you're still paying $30 to the company to beta test the game, and you're still hoping that the company will actually finish the game. It's a strange thing to be doing. This is not how things were back in the day. Back in my day, you would buy a cartridge that you interjected into your console, and then if that game sucked, that was it. You just had to live with the suck. Like it was a vacuum or something.
Die by the suck.
Live by the suck, die by the suck?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Then over on YouTube, we got Infinity Wolf saying, man, that Intel snake oil presentation aged poorly right from the start, but in light of recent stuff, it has aged super badly. Yep. Yeah, I hear you. Not a good look for Intel when it comes to their CPUs right now. Aroused Lamp, my goodness, profile picture too, saying, Sony, we're still learning what is best for PC players. More like they're trying to see what we can get away with. Yeah, of course. They're trying to extract as much value as possible. I mean, it's not like they know what they're doing over on PC. They obviously have to establish boundaries and see, can the tolerances of a console player be the tolerances of a PC player. It makes sense that they're doing this. I disagree with it, but yeah, they're going to try to extract that cash value from you. Then Digital Player saying, 1 million subscribers soon. Good job, Brett. Thank you, but also it's not just a good job to me. We do have a team here at UFD Tech. I would not be here without them because this has been a long, arduous journey to get anywhere near this amount of people watching our videos. So just big thank you to, in no particular order, Reece, Rickus, Catlin, Kyler, Michael, my family. I mean, this feels like an award ceremony, but it's not. We're not even at the milestone yet. We could just crash and burn before that ever even happens. But yeah, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the help of my amazing team, especially with everything that's been going on behind the scenes with... It's been hard to keep this thing afloat sometimes. Then Stefan, the Verge rep, saying, the human eye can't even see more than 24%. I didn't even think about that. You're right. Let Intel take all of the performance. Just throw it out the window. Don't even need it. Dan saying, democracy has prevailed. And then May saying, think about Hades 2 is a super giant game already proven they can handle an early release with the first Hades, and so far they haven't done anything to cost them their players support. So for this one, I'd say it's worth it if you're into it. And I get that argument, but that was also the actual primary driving narrative before Cyberpunk 2077 happened, when that game came out and was a nightmare for console players and people on lower end hardware. The statement I heard time and time again, and I probably even uttered myself, was CD Projekt Red has always shown that they put the gamers first, their customers first, and it couldn't possibly go wrong. And I understand that proven track record absolutely does help establish credibility for these companies, but I've also seen that credibility wiped away in a single instance, and I think it's just, I'm not saying Supergiant is going to do it, but it is an intriguing situation that we are putting ourselves in the scenario where they can. You're going to pay $30 for a game that they could never complete. They could just abandon it. They could just leave it in early access forever. And then we're just, what are we now? Star Citizen players? Please. And I'm gonna go be a citizen out in the real world. I'll see you back here for more of the hottest tech news tomorrow, my friends.